is Obiageri Eze, and I will be your host. I will be your moderator this evening. So this evening's topic is very interesting because in today's digital age, technology has transformed the way we conduct businesses. The internet and connected devices has opened up new opportunities for growth, for innovation and connectivity. But however, this increased reliance on technology also brings new risks and challenges. So today, we have an expert who will share his insights on the topic cyber security and data protection, imperatives for business sustainability. But before we dive in, let us see what AEHRP is all about. Let us see our core values, our visions. So I would like to share the screen with you now so that we'll go through our core values, our mission, our vision. So just give me a minute, please. I'd like to share my slide. Okay, can anybody see my slide? Hello, please let us know if you can see my slide, please. Can anyone see my slide?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so our core values, credibility, we demonstrate enviable character. Number 2 is authenticity. We are the real deal. Responsibility, we know what to do and we do it. Then reliance, we defy the odds. Integrity, we exemplify uncompromised ethical standards. Empathy, we understand and share members' experiences and emotions. Agility, we nimble solutions that empower. Then our vision statement is to be the go-to source of competent human resource professionals who redefine the practice. Our mission statement is creating value for human resource professionals and organizations through coaching, mentoring, and research-based learning and capacity building programs. Our cardinal mandates. 1 is to bridge the communal gap that exists between human resource professionals of different cadres. The number 2 is to serve as a platform for learning capacity development, knowledge acquisition, and experience. So without further ado, I will go straight by reading out our facilitator's profile. So our facilitator's name is Abraham Ebunolorun. He is an IT professional with a special interest in cybersecurity strategies and understanding of its tool and software. He helps implement effective IT strategies at local and global levels in compliance with security standards and best practices. He is skilled in business security operatives with solutions such as Sophos, Commvault, Microsoft Solutions, among others. He is certified in ISO 27001, ISO 270322012, ISO 200002018, and Critical Infrastructure Protection, ICIP. He has successfully facilitated workshops for diverse organizations, including finance and insurance, oil and gas, manufacturing and educational institutions, creating awareness for their users and empowering them to build resilient security postures. Abraham is passionate about helping organizations protect their sensitive data and maintain operational continuity. As a cybersecurity professional at Reliance Infosystems, he works alongside an established team of cybersecurity analysts who are accountable for maintaining, troubleshooting, and responding to cybersecurity risk for business organization. Please all, can you join me in welcoming Mr. Abraham? Mr. Abraham, thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for him, please. Please, virtual round of applause. Let's go to the chat room and welcome him with our virtual round of applause. Mr. Abraham, please, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Am I audible, please?
Yes, you are.
All right. Thank you very much, moderator. Good evening, everyone. Just give me a moment while I share my screen. Can I go ahead, please? Hello, moderator. Can I share my screen now?
You can share your screen. You have the right.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I believe you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right. So thank you, moderator. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me on this call. My name is Abraham Ebonlorun. All right. I want to really appreciate you for the AEHRP team for putting this section together. And it's an honor for me to be here. So special thanks to the team for this wonderful opportunity. I'd like to also use this medium to appreciate the HR professionals on the call and around, around the world that are doing great work. Kudos to you all for all that you do. Please, let's keep up the good work towards organizational success. All right, so for our section today, it's a very interesting topic, just as the moderator has mentioned. All right, the topic we have before us is cybersecurity and data protection, imperatives for business sustainability. So like I said, it's a very interesting subject because it cuts across every sphere at the workplace, even beyond the workplace, as it speaks to both the corporate environment and even our personal life on the internet. All right, so it's going to be a very great learning section for us. I'd like to have your attention for the next few minutes, and because there are interesting things I'll be sharing with you, and it's going to be a great learning section together. Thank you once again for having me. All right, so what is the agenda we have this evening? So we're going to be starting with why cybersecurity is crucial. What is the excess of cybersecurity? What is cybersecurity? And then why is it important to us in this time and age? We're also going to be looking at understanding what cyber attack is all about. What are the types of cyber attack that we have? How do they work? What are the techniques? We're going to be looking at that as well. Also, we're going to be looking at the impact of cyber attacks in our world today. You know, from time immemorial, what has brought about the talk around cybersecurity, what has made it more pronounced, what has made cybersecurity a little bit more obvious than ever before. We're going to be touching on that as well. All right. And we'll not but also mention some of the legal implications as part of some of the impact of cyber attack. We'll also be talking about legal penalty for organizations. And then we'll be talking about some of the vulnerabilities that organizations find themselves in, you know, that makes them, that create loophole or that exposes organizations to cyber attack. And then also talk about the regulatory compliance and data protection laws that governs organizations around the world and especially in Nigeria. So we're going to be talking about that and how to stay compliant to those protection laws. Then finally, we'll be discussing or concluding with the cybersecurity culture moving forward. Where do we go from here? How do we proceed? And how to properly respond to an incident when it happens. That is, in the eventuality of an incident, how do we progress? How do we prepare for an incident, for that eventuality? All right. So quickly, let's jump right into it. So why cybersecurity and why is it important? Why does cybersecurity matter to us, especially as the HR team, as a user, as an employee of an organization? Why does it matter to us? Now, the cybersecurity landscape, all right, is constantly evolving and getting more complex, especially since the advent of the pandemic in 2019. You remember the pandemic that occurred in the year 2019 that started from China and then extended to Nigeria in 2020 around March, you know, where there was a curfew and, you know, the road was shut down. Everybody stay at home except for essentials. So, and since that time, around the globe, this pandemic has caused a surge in what we call remote work. All right. Before that time, it's not something that is very obvious if there was any corporate operations around remote work. It's not something that has been very obvious before that time. But after that time, there was a surge in what we call remote work. And now that brings us to the importance and need for us to know about this evolution, to stay afloat and stay secure in this digital world. You will agree with me today that a part of your record, a part of your data is on the cloud, all right? It's on social media, it's everywhere. It's in the digital space generally, all right? And so beyond the data that we put up there, there is need for us to be able to see how those data are doing, who has access to them and whatnot, and then how we can further protect them. What are the bindings that we are subjected to when it comes to especially data privacy and the cybersecurity or the security of our data. All right. So it is important for us because, especially for HR, and I'm going to be speaking a little bit more from the HR perspective because it's quite important for them. And I believe most of the participants on this call are also from that department. All right. So HR today are at the helm of affairs at every organization. So whatever conclusion, whatever decision is made, HR is always part of the process of making that decision and implementing that decision. All right, because HR is a point of contact for every employer. So today, you will agree with me that the data of every employee of a typical organization lies on the desk of an HR. All right. And these data are personal. They can be from personal to corporate data of every employee. All right. So from the entry of new employees to their exit, to creating policies and rules, all right, that governs workflows of their users. Every other department, of course, will have to work with the HR to bring to life whatever system or jurisdiction, whatever policies that they want in place for this organization. All right, so HR determines the security of employees. All right, so we're talking about the reason cybersecurity is crucial for HR professionals, especially. All right, so we have the security culture of employees and vendors of an organization that is on the table of the HR, because they are the custodians of the work policies and enforcement in an organization. A culture of security in an environment in which employees not only understand the importance of strong cybersecurity, but also actively participate in protecting the organization against cyber attacks. All right, so this is beyond the IT team. I know we have departments in our organizations that oversees the overall IT system, digital assets, and the security. But our discussion today puts to us that the protection of our data is beyond the control of the IT team. So like any other values the company they may uphold, the security should be woven into every process. Like every other mission statement, like every other values that the organization may hold on to, security should be part of that process, and calculated into every of the decisions that will be made. All right, so sensitive data also lies on the desk of HR. Like I said, employees, personal, financial, corporate data, partner or vendors data. The HR department has an obligation of protecting this data because it is in their care. All right, so HR is involved in the incident response as well and recovery measures of an organization. The communication and training of users in the organization is championed by the HR. All right, HR is also involved in ensuring organizations-wide compliance with data protection regulations. Because of course you cannot protect against what you do not know. Of course, you have to see what you're trying to protect against. You have to be able to see what you're protecting itself. All right. So, and attacks are getting more sophisticated every day. We're going to be talking about that. You get to understand why I said so. And this now requires every organization to become proactive, instead of being reactive. So before now, we used to be reactive. We respond to incident, but now we have to prepare for an incident so that we can mitigate against it before it happens, before it occurs, before we get any notification around us that there is an incident, there is an attack. So how do we carry out this process? How do we become proactive? All right, what makes us proactive when it comes to cybersecurity? Number one, we need to understand the risks that are involved. We need to understand our systems that we put in place as an organization, all right? And we need to understand the risk that we are exposed to, all right? Secondly, we need to also recognize the potential threats, the potential attack vectors that we have around us all over the world, not just to your organization, not just the ones that your organization is exposed to, but the general overview of what potential threats or attack vectors are, because this aspect of cybersecurity is evolving every day. And that is why we also, as an organization, as users, we need to evolve every day, either personal or corporate. All right. So number three is that protecting ourselves, our organization, and our customers. That is how we become proactive. All right. And so for several reasons, cybersecurity is very, very crucial for us. So quickly, let's go into what cyber attacks really are. What are the types of cyber attacks? What is cyber attack? What does it even mean? Some people may be wondering, what does cyber attack mean? All right, so imagine or probably you have seen around you someone that was hacked. Maybe someone's WhatsApp was hacked, or probably taking it further, probably you've heard of an organization that was attacked, that was under an attack. These are some of the things that we can refer to as a cyber attack, because it's an intrusion or an attack against your digital assets, the assets that you have online, your data, so to say, that you have online, is an attack on them, a threat to them. So these are what we call cyber attacks. And so what are the types of cyber attacks, especially that are evolving in our world today? All right. Because since the pandemic, the change in cyber attack has changed. All right. The change in cyber attack has been exponential. There is a surge. The evolution has been crazy, if you would allow me to say. So there is a surge in cyber attacks all around the world. And with the advent of AI, it has become more sophisticated, with cyber attackers becoming more easily craftier, right? Because of the automation, the likes of AI, and every other systems integration that has come into play when it comes to attack in our world today. So technology alone, all right, is no longer enough. That's another thing that we need to take note of. Technology alone is no longer enough, as attacks are getting their way around organizations' cybersecurity defenses. So let's talk about these types of attack, as you can see on the screen. So we have the phishing attack. So phishing is a very common type of attack in our world today, because it deals with emails. And emails is one of the collaborative tools that we use as an organization to stay productive. All right. Every collaboration we have internally within an organization and with vendors, with customers, all of those transactions, all of those collaborations goes, or those communication goes through our email, our messaging platform. All right. So attackers have also, deviated from what they used to use before to directing attacks through emails to individuals and to the organization as a whole. Because if they're able to get to an individual, a part or a member, a staff member of the organization, it's a gradual process. They can escalate and then move around until they get what they want on their environment. There's something we also call malware attacks. It's also a common type of cyber threat that can be used to steal or damage data on a computer or network. And it can be delivered through email attachments as well. And this is something very interesting. For most of these types of attacks that you can see on the screen, most of them are delivered through email. Email is one of the medium by which these attacks get into the environment. All right. So they can be delivered through emails. They can be delivered through fake software downloads or infected websites. So clicking on sites and all of that is also a contributing factor. It's also a medium by which you can be attacked as an organization. All right. There's something we also call ransomware attack. Ransomware attack is also a malware attack, but this one encrypts file, or damage file on a computer or network and demands for a ransom payment, all right, in exchange for the data that has been taken out. So when they get into the environment, when they're able to get a hold on your data, they start copying out those files. They exfiltrate those files, and as soon as they do that, they will encrypt the one on your production environment. That is, you will have no access to the data, to your own data again. They now have it in their custody, and then they demand a ransom for them to give you back, that data. And that is very, very alarming. It has become the order of the day, when it comes to cyber attacks in our world. All right. So there's the other attack that we call social engineering. All right. Social engineering is a very interesting kind of attack. And because it's a type of cyber attack that exploits, or they tend to manipulate users into, that benefit the attacker. All right. And they can be delivered through phishing email as well, phone calls, or even physical interactions. They try to play on your intelligence, they play on your psychology. They ask you that a code will be sent to you, for example, and that you should send that code to them as soon as you get the code. They pull a call through. We have seen some social media attacks, on our WhatsApp or Facebook and all of that, or even on the environment, in the corporate environment, asking users to provide a particular information about themselves, probably their BVN or their account number, and then with that, they use it to hack them. All right. So these are some of the things that we need to know, because these social engineering techniques can lead to business email compromise, among some other attacks that this can lead to. Also, a phishing attack is highly effective with attackers impersonating executives to defraud organizations. So this is a kind of phishing attack that we call spear phishing, that attacks certain people around you, your relatives, so that they can get to you, they can use them against you, when someone, your boss at work, is reaching out to you to send a document to them or remit a particular amount of money, you can't dispute it because you believe the email is coming from your boss. Meanwhile, they may have disguised as your boss. All right. So they may not directly be coming from your boss, and that is an illegitimate email that you need to verify before you can respond to. All right. So these are some of the things that we need to know. And lastly, on this slide is the insider threat. All right. This is a very interesting one, as well as we also have some intentional threat actors in our organizations today. All right. So there was a news that we got with my team yesterday while we were trying to update ourselves with the cyber trends around the world, and we found out that this attacker was a part of the organization. He was employed into the organization, but he was not well verified. He went through the normal process of employee onboarding, all right, through the HR of that company, not knowing that he's an attacker from China, and he joined the organization because, it's a remote work. Nothing much could be done. They did not see him and all of that. They were only able to get few data around, employees onboarding and all of that, So, and then after a while, this attacker has been in the environment. He was able to carry out his evil heart, which was intended from the beginning, from inception, from the time he got in, even before he got in. That was the intent, and they couldn't detect it before they brought him in, and then it was just it was as if he was given a free access into the environment because he is now a staff member. So it was after the mishap, the attack, that they found out that it was an insider that brought about the incident. So this insider threat is a security risk that originates from within an organization, and it typically involves a current or former employee, a contractor, a business associate, a disgruntled employee, who has access to sensitive information or privileged accounts, within the network of an organization, and then go ahead to misuse this access. All right. So it could be through a malicious insider, someone who intentionally wants to carry out this harm on the organization. It could be a negligent insider, someone who does not know, someone who is not doing it intentionally because he is not aware of the implication of what he's doing, All right. So he just go ahead and carry out, normal work operations without knowing what risk is he or she is exposing the organization to. And then we have the compromised type of apologies for that. We have the compromised type of insider attacker or insider threat, from compromised users whose account has been hacked already. And so the attacker is just using the account against their will. All right. So these are some of the things that we ought to know. And because of this evolution has brought about the use of AI, to make attack techniques or attack vectors more complicated and more difficult to detect. All right. The likes of AI around the world today, ransomware has become a business. all right, we have what we call ransomware as a service, So it has become a service on its own where an attacker who is skilled, at hacking accounts or hacking business infrastructure systems is able to create that code or that script or build up a technique and then sell it to other non-skilled attackers. So that's what we call ransomware as a service. And then those non-skilled attackers, they go ahead to use this script or this code or this malicious code and use it to attack organizations. All right. There have also been evolution around supply chain, attacks targeting supply chain because of remote work, partner access into your environment. Attackers also use or leverage those rights to get into your environment and carry out this evil act of theirs. And then we have the expanding Internet of Things, with security breaches, with security vulnerabilities, loopholes, with high risk exposure. All right. And then the expanding operational technology as well. It has evolved in recent times. All right. And then we have the AI powered technology. This is very, very key. It's important for us to know that AI is now embedded into these attacks to make it more seamless to carry out, to make it more easy for attackers and more difficult for organizations to dictate. So the attack focus has shifted from just technology to humans. All right, so we cannot complete this discussion, or we cannot talk about this topic without mentioning some of the recent use cases, cyber attacks that we have had in our world, around the world today. And some of them are what you can see on the screen. We have the SolarWinds attack. This an attack is one of the most significant cyber espionage in recent history. All right, hackers believed to be associated with the Russian group APT29. They compromised the SolarWinds Orion software. All right. This is a telecommunication software, all right, which is used by numerous organizations worldwide. So this gives them the leverage to infiltrate various US government agencies and private companies. And then we have the Exchange server. Most of us might be familiar with this system, the Microsoft Exchange server. In early 2021, a group known as Hafnium, believed to be state-sponsored and operating out of China, all right, exploited this vulnerability. They exploited this vulnerability in Exchange server, and this attack affected thousands of organizations globally, all right, and this allowed the attackers to access email accounts and install malware for long-term access. Please kindly confirm I'm still audible and you can see my screen and you can also see me. So I know I'm not talking to myself. Hello.
Hi, your voice is clear. We can also see your slide.
All right. All right. Thank you. So let's proceed. Third on that list, we have the Colonial pipeline attack. It was also a ransomware attack carried out by the group called DarkSide, and it led to the shutdown of major fuel pipeline in the US. All right, causing widespread disruption. Attackers gained access, through a compromised password and demanded a ransom. That is what ransomware is all about, which was partially paid. But I can bet you their data didn't get back to them, because in the first place, it was even partially paid. Even if it was fully paid, from statistics, from data that we have gathered about ransomware, most of the organizations that pay ransomware don't get their data back. That go ahead to pay the attackers requested ransom, they don't get to get their data back. All right, so this is very, very, very challenging for organizations. And then we have the Log4Shell vulnerability. That's the name of the vulnerability that was discovered in late 2021 in a library called the Apache library. All right, it's a 0-day vulnerability That means that that vulnerability is a new vulnerability that was just detected, all right, or a vulnerability that was just discovered, all right. And so this allowed attackers to execute malicious code, on those systems that affected the system, and it was widely exploited by various threat actors. I said earlier that an attacker can just get into the system and then sell assets to other attackers, for them to play around on the organization's data and all of that. That can be very, very, very disheartening. All right. And some of these attacks includes nation-state groups and cyber criminals. There are some of political pursuit, and then they explore online hackers. They explore attackers to carry out evil, to get data from their opposition, their running mate and all of that, so that they're able to use it, against them. And then we have the attack that is called SIM swapping attack. This attack was carried out using social engineering technique. And we talked about social engineering. A relatively new cyber criminal group called Lapsus Group carried out this high-profile attack severally, not once, in 2022 alone. And they targeted companies like Microsoft. These are some of our partners. These are some of our vendors that we use their solutions. Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Okta. All right, using this social engineering and SIM swapping techniques to gain access to internal systems and steal sensitive data. Now, this one is very interesting, and I'd like you to just take a moment to reflect on it. It's called the deepfake attack incident. It's a kind of attack that leverages AI and neural networks. All right, and I want to explain how. So my explanation would now be focused on an incident that happened. All right, since that's what we're talking about on this slide. So a company was duped, all right, and it all started with an email being sent to the financial officer of that company. All right, they have staff members across different regions. All right, so the CFO sent an email, to the financial officer from another region, another country, to remit a particular amount or reimburse a particular amount into a supposed vendor's account for a transaction, a project that the vendor will be carrying out for the company, so that they can kickstart the project. And then, just for posterity, for reference, the financial officer asked that let's have a meeting, to discuss the money, to discuss how the project will go. And the meeting was held. A video conference call was held with 6 members on the call, including the financial officer and also the supposed CFO, the chief financial officer. And then at the end of the meeting, they agreed that the money would be, sent to the vendor's account. Unfortunately, the only real person on that conference call is the financial officer. Every other person on that call was deep fake. That is fake video of meeting participants, including the CFO. It was a big situation. It was a very, very disgusting situation. And that was how $25 million was remitted into a strange account, into the attacker's account. And that was how the company lost that amount of money. So this deepfake account has to do with video, like a picture, camouflaging as someone someone you respect, someone like a boss, like your CEO, like your MD, or even a family. Someone that can, ask you for something and you will do it in the immediate. And so that was how this company was defrauded of $25 million. So you can imagine what situation that company would be at that time, to gone through that very, very unfortunate incident. All right. And then in Nigeria here, we have, the likes of ransomware really taking a toll on different organizations. All right. Because of the space where I work as a cybersecurity engineer, I work with a team of cybersecurity experts. And as a company, we usually get calls from customers to come carry out assessments on their environment, especially when they are attacked, to see how deep the attack is and if they can recover anything. All right, so we got a call from this customer and visited them. It's a telecommunication company here in Nigeria. And when we got to their office, we found out that they were hit by ransomware. They were attacked by ransomware. And it's a new variant, never seen before. Even we, the team that were in attendance at the customer's environment, we have not seen that kind of attack before in our years of experience. It's new. It's called a black suit variant of the ransomware. So how did it work? They got into the infrastructure, they attacked their systems, they hacked their production environment, they encrypted all of the files, all right? They encrypted their backup, all right, because their backup was also somewhere on the network, all right? So as soon as they got into the network, they attacked everything. They got their files exfiltrated, and then they now went ahead to also encrypt every device that is connecting to that infrastructure, that is connecting to that particular service. All right. So they had to now start refreshing. They had to now reload their OS from scratch, their device OS, their workstations, users' accounts, users' devices. All right. We spoke with one of the infrastructure managers there who lost 18 records, 18 years of records, 18 years of employees' record to this attack. All right. So this is a very growing concern around our organizations today, and it's important for us to take note of this. Statistics around the world show that the global cybercrime cost is expected to grow, by 15% annually, reaching $10.5 trillion in 2025. All right. And then over 75% of targeted cyber attacks start with an email. Like I said, phishing attacks, they usually start with email. Ransomware, email, malware, they start with email. Around 35% of malware was delivered via email in 2023 alone. And this shows that email is a major vector when it comes to cyber attack. All right. In the first half of 2022 alone, there were approximately 236.1 million ransomware attacks globally around the world in 2022, in the first half of 2022 alone. All right. So the average cost of data breach in 2024 alone, this year that we have, is $4.88 million. The average cost of a data breach, all right, around the world. And then we have the last one there that speaks to cyber attack incidents. In 2023 only, there were about 2,365 cyber attacks, and these affected over 343 victims around the world. Now, why am I reading this to us? This highlights the growing and evolving nature of cyber attacks around the world. Before this section and even after, that is to tell you it will keep evolving. And it emphasizes that the importance of a comprehensive approach to digital security is key in our world today and for our organizations. All right, so what are the impacts of cyber attacks in our world today? The first one here is disruption of operations. If there is an attack, for a typical organization that is attacked, the first thing that happens is that you want to halt the operations, because when an attack gets into the environment, they are trying to move, from one to another. They try to move around, lateral movement. They literally move around. So the first thing that an organization wants to do is to halt operations so that the network will be halted and there will be no movement for these cyber attackers since they are connecting remotely. So it's going to disrupt operations. There will be loss of productivity and there will be loss of revenue. All right. And then, like I said, we have financial loss, which is also loss of revenue. And this financial loss is in two parts. Now, for organizations, because of loss of productivity, revenue will be lost. All right, because they can't carry out transactions and all of that. Secondly, the cost of halting the bridge, trying to recover, trying to get stable, that's another additional cost. That's two costs, all right, that can be very, very substantial on organizations' pockets when it comes to the loss. All right, and then we have the reputational damage. So reputational damage is all about negative publicity. All right, so it can damage the reputation of an organization due to negative publicity. It can lead to loss of customers or even partnership, which is my next point. Loss of customers, loss of partnerships, decreased sales, all right, and then difficulty attracting new investors. So it's very important that organizations are able to look inward and give a more proactive approach to digital security. We're going to be talking about that. And then we have the legal liabilities. I will also be stressing this because a security breach can lead to regulatory fines. In Nigeria today, data protection and security or cyber security has become a thing that Nigeria holds in high esteem. All right, so and there are substantial fines for any organization that is caught, that becomes a victim of a cyber attack. So to me, that sounds like a situation of once bitten, twice shy. You are suffering from the attack that you experience as an organization. So imagine yourself in that situation as an organization. You're suffering, you're still trying to recover from the attack, and then there is a regulatory fine added to it. So it can be a little bit unfortunate situation, for some organizations, and especially in Nigeria, is a grievous offense, if there is a security breach. All right, and so these are some of the things we are going to be looking at. And then before we now go into that, into the legal penalties for organizations, let's look at the vulnerabilities. What are the loopholes in our organizations today? What are these attackers really looking for? What do they want to see? What gives them access into the environment? All right. What are the things that they look out for? How did they get into the environment? All right. So we're going to be identifying some of them on this slide. So we have what we call weak password. Long time use of one particular password, same passwords on major accounts, using Google account to sign in, for all of your accounts, and then the non-use of MFA. So some of us today, we tend to ignore MFA. We don't want to set it up. Some of us, we just feel like it's not necessary. My account is not that sensitive, and so why should I? The implication around this is that from your account, they can escalate permissions or privilege and get into other privileged accounts. All right, we're going to be getting into that very soon. And then we have unpatched systems, systems that are not updated. All right. Every now and then, original equipment manufacturer around our Windows devices, our Mac devices, our phones, our Android phones, our iOS devices, they send in, updates every now and then for us to download and install. But some of us, because we do not know, which is the good news I've brought to you, we do not know, we tend to ignore them. All right, so I want to tell you there are implications to doing that. So moving on, when you get updates like that, that update is there to do two things: to enhance your user experience, all right, and also to further secure your OS. So either it's your Android phone, either it's the application on them, either it's your softwares, your device, your Windows device, your Mac device. Those updates are there to enhance your user interaction with the device, all right, the user interface, and then secure or fix some bugs, some vulnerabilities that the OEM, the maker, of the manufacture of the device or of the system as discovered, because from their end, from time to time, they also carry out vulnerability assessment on their systems to see if there are new vulnerabilities that attackers can leverage. So before attackers can, jump on that loophole or that vulnerability to use against users or their customers, they tend to bring in new fixes to correct that bug. And that is why you get updates every now and then. And so it is not something that you should ignore moving forward. And then we have what we call lack of security check. So you see, lack of security check is something that is very much ignored, just like the unpatched systems. All right, lack of security check on your device. Take out time to restart your device. Most of users today, they don't want to restart. They don't want to shut down because they have a lot of processes that are running. There are workloads that are not saved, and so they don't want to restart. They rather sleep or hibernate their devices. This is not a wise decision when it comes to security. So at intervals, take time to restart your devices. There's phishing susceptibility as well, because of users unaware of what a phishing email can do. They tend to ignore whatever emails are coming. They don't know how to suspect phishing emails or links when they see them. These are some of the things that creates loophole for attackers to get into the system. And then we have inadequate access controls, like the zero trust work model. All right. When you create documents today, who do you give access? Do you just share the link to anyone and you just give them the access to edit, tamper with the documents? These are some of the things we're going to be talking about. All right. Note before I move on, an attacker needs just one of these vulnerabilities to strike. Just one of these vulnerabilities. So if you find that in an environment, that means you're exposed to a certain type of risk. All right. All right, so let's look at our screen very well. And I want us to use this chat box this time. Please identify the correct web address that you can see on your screen. So you might want to take maybe 10 seconds to look at your screen and identify which of these addresses is correct. And if none of them is correct, you can also put that in the chat box as we proceed. So I'll just give you about 10 seconds to give your answers, and then I'll proceed. So this is the website for AEHRP, So please kindly put your answers in the chat box so that we can proceed. I also like us to know that this is one of the techniques that attackers also use, to get into the environment when they send emails or when they ask you to click on links and all of that. So it's important that we also create awareness for ourselves. We're also aware of these things moving forward. All right. So let's go into the regulatory part of this. Because like I said, in Nigeria now, data protection, data privacy has now become the order of the day, especially for organizations. We've had interactions with some of the use cases, some of the incidents around the NITDA charging organizations to pay fines or face criminal penalty, for a security breach that happened in the environment. We have it in the news today about Fidelity Bank. Earlier this year, they have been hacked twice now. They were earlier hacked in March and now in August. So because these are some of the ways attackers work. When they get into the environment the first time, they're likely to come back again very soon because they are already learned the pattern. It can take a cyber attack a year or two before they strike. They are already in the environment, and it is not at the time you are experiencing that attack or security breach that the attacker got in. All right, so they must have been there 3 months before, they must have been there a year before. They are studying the pattern of operation. They are studying the way people are sending their emails and all of that before they now finally strike. And, it's very, very important for us to know this and then make sure that we're protected and secure. So some of the regulatory compliance and data protection laws that governs data in Nigeria for every organization that has their blueprints here in Nigeria, including international organizations. So it's not just this Fidelity. And sometimes this year, WhatsApp was also fined, by the NITDA. I think that was about $500 million, for a data breach of Nigerian users of that messaging platform, because they experience that data breach and, it exposes a number of users' data in Nigeria to the general public. So they were fine. So it affects every organization, no matter the industry. All right. So let's quickly delve into this. Data privacy, data protection, cybersecurity around it, they are intertwined. All right. And then they all boils down to 3 core pillars, of data and privacy. Number 1 is the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability of data. So the right to confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data, with data controllers, which are organizations that process this data, is sacrosanct. The right to, I'll take that again, the right to confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data is sacrosanct and one of the principles of the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation, and that principle is that data control must comply, with basic standards of information security. So whatever measure organizations are putting in place today, it must comply with basic cybersecurity standards or information security standard that NDPR has put in place, as we have it, just the way we have it in the Data Protection Regulation of Nigeria. Now, the regulation also places the onus of security, all right? The regulation places the onus, all right, of security on all persons. Act 2 of the regulation provides that every person owe a duty of care to the data subjects and that they must develop security measures to protect these data against breaches such as theft, cyber attack, and the likes, viral attack, and all of that. So data subjects are the customers that we manage their data. And as an organization, we are the data controller, or we are the data processors. So data processors could also be individuals that relate, the likes of HR, an organization, they are the data processors. The organization as a whole is the data controller, and customers are the data subjects. So these are the terms that we need to know, all right? And therefore, NDPR and cybersecurity, like I said, they are closely linked. While NDPR focuses on data privacy, it recognizes that strong cybersecurity is essential, to achieving that goal. And here are some of the regulations that NDPR puts in place. All right. Data security requirements. The NDPR mandates that organizations processing personal data implement appropriate technical and organizational measures to ensure that data security is part of their operations. Now, this does not prescribe a specific solution, a specific security solution, but emphasizes managing risk around your networks, your endpoints, your identities, your applications, and so on. Just make sure that our security solutions in place to manage all of these things. All right, and we'll move on to the second one, which speaks to data protection by design. So NDPR also requires that organizations focus on data protection by design under the compliance checklist for data controllers in the compliance framework. This regulation requires that organizations build data protection into their processes from scratch. So either you're building an internal application or so, there has to be data protection, from the design, from the scratch, from the building or from the engineering phase of that system. And this means that you need to consider cybersecurity during system design to mitigate any data privacy risk. And these apply to data retention periods, data security measures that you put in place. And then we move on to the next one, which is data encryption. And this mandates all data subject facing applications, that is public facing applications that you use as an organization to interact with customers. They have to be protected, using these solutions, but not limited to them. Encryption, access control, and all of those things must be put in place. Data controllers, which are organizations, are expected to ensure continuous improvement of this information security architecture, as well as protecting or preventing possible data breaches. All right. And then we have what we call access control. Now, this body also requires that access controls be put in place for proper and least management permissions to data. Permissions around users, least privilege permissions, giving access to resources that is within an employee job role. All right. So typically, or for example, an employee in the HR department should not have access to data from the finance unit. There are some of financial records that could be on the table or on the desk of an HR professional, but not all data they should be privy to. All right. The data that the financial unit interacts with today is always around money. It's always around transactions. These or most of this data should not be open to someone in the operations unit. All right, this is what access control is all about. Organizations should be able to put in place zero trust model of work operation. That is, trust nothing and verify every connection all the time. All right. So even if the person that has connected to you in the last 5 minutes, especially our vendors in the supply chain industry, especially our vendors, they need to be verified again if they're connecting again, because this time it could be another intruder or an attacker, an attempt, to get into the environment. And then we have employee training, data protection, or the NDPR. They also emphasize on the importance of employee training. All of these things boils down to employee training, because employee needs to be aware of the risk they are exposed to when they are interacting with information around them, with data that is in their care. All right. So under data protection for ministries, departments, and agencies, the body mandates that organizations should continually carry out capacity building for staff, contractors, processors, that is their employees, relevant third parties, as a core duty. It should be a core duty for them. Data breaches can occur due to human error, knowingly or unknowingly. All right. So the NDPR highlights that the need for employee training on data privacy and security is expedient. All right. And this empowers employees to identify and avoid threats. They become cyber aware. They know what to do, how to open an email, what to suspect in an email. All right. And then we have what we call data protection audit. So section 2, subsection 10 of the NDPR mandates data controllers, who are, in this case, organizations who process personal data of more than 2,000 data subjects, to submit a summary of their data protection audit to NITDA on March 15th annually, every year. So that is, you need to be able to submit a protection audit to say that you are compliant with the NDPR compliance measures. All right. So all of these things should be done and be submitted to the NITDA. So these are some of the things that that governs our operations as organization in Nigeria. We must be aware. We must be aware. All right. And data controllers have a duty of self-reporting of personal data breaches to the NITDA within 72 hours of knowledge of such breach. So as soon as you detect a breach in your environment as an organization, you have to report to your data subjects, that is to your customers, to the general public. All right. So that was how we get to know that Fidelity Bank was compromised at some point. So because they had to come out to, report it and, let the public know that they were compromised, even though, they are putting things in control, they are putting things under control and all of that. But then look at the risks they have been exposed to already. All right. Look at the risks they've been exposed to already. They were attacked first in March and then in April. So these are security concerns that we need to take into action, into consideration and into action. So they are expected to report as an organization, they're expected to report within 72 hours of your knowledge about that breach. As soon as you detect that there's a breach, report immediately. All right. Some of the other compliance measures as put down by data protection regulations around the world, around the GDPR, around SOC 2, which is also a system and security control, for organizations, especially a particular industry of the organization. We have the likes of IPA, which speaks to health, medical institutions. We have the like of NIST, which speaks to some specific industries in around the world as well. All of these regulations, all of these agencies, all of this body, they require that organizations should be ISO compliant. They have to be ISO compliant. So this helps to, cement trust in the minds of customers, because customers are confused on where they need to upload their data, how safe their data is with their data controller, to the platform or to the organization that has their data with them. There are some data of their personal data of customers that will never change. Their medical history will never change. And that is why we have more stringent controls and measures for organizations running medical services. All right. So it's quite important that all of these things are put in place. Organizations need to be certified, ISO certified, as it relates to their own industry. These frameworks helps put in place best practice, that are put in place as baselines for organizations to work with. It's also build customers and partners trust and reputation. When a customer or a customer organization comes to you and they found out that you are ISO compliant, you are ISO certified as an organization, it helps them to have rest of mind that this company that I'm leaving my data with is safe. All right. So these are some of the things that helps us to build business sustainability. Every organization today is required to have a certified DPO. It's one of the requirements of NDPR as well. A certified DPO, that is a certified data protection officer, that is they must be certified by the agency, that is the body, the NITDA, which are the ones who oversee the implementation frameworks of NDPR. All right. Because these frameworks are subdivided into 17 categories. So if there is a DPO, a certified DPO, it will help to carry out all of these policies in an organization. And overall, the NDPR emphasizes data security as a foundation for data privacy. When it comes to NDPR, the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation, is speaking basically, or most importantly, to data privacy. But we can't talk about data privacy without security. And that is where all of these discussions are coming from. So these robust cybersecurity practices are put in place by the GDPR, which is cascaded now to the NDPR, to minimize the risk of data breaches and protect the personal information of citizens, of customers. An organization needs to prioritize implementing robust data protection measures to avoid penalties and then protect their reputation as well. It is important that organizations consult legal professionals for specific advice that is related to their situation. Now, let's quickly look at the penalty for organizations. What is the data breach penalty for organizations? All right. Now that we have known the regulation that is put in place by NDPR, what are the penalty if an organization violates this regulation? Now we have the administrative fines. All right. The Nigerian Data Protection Regulation has empowered the National Information Technology Development Agency, which is the NITDA, to impose administrative fines on organizations, all right, that fail to comply with the data protection requirements, all right. So these fines can be substantial, and they're intended to encourage compliance. A tiered approach, is given to these administrative fines depending on the kind of violation that was done. So for first timers that experience data security breach without putting all of these measures in place, they will be penalized with a 10 million naira fine, rather. A 10 million naira fine awaits them, all right, for organizations that violates this law, or 2% of their annual revenue. That is, whichever is higher, either the 10 million naira fine or 2% of their annual revenue. So these are some of the liabilities that organizations fall into when it comes to the regulation and the legal compliance to data protection in Nigeria. So it's quite a serious issue in Nigeria, especially with data privacy. All right. And for those that have had repeated violations, they will be entitled, or they will be fined 6% of their annual gross revenue. All right. So there are other imposements around remedial actions that must be taken in the immediate, issuing of warnings, ordering corrective measures, or suspending data processing activities in that organization. And then we have the criminal liability. So for organizations that violate, in addition or as an option for administrative fine, individuals in the organization around security, probably their head of IT, probably their IT manager, or their CISO, that's the Chief Information Security Officer in that organization, they are liable to 2 years imprisonment, 1 to 2 years imprisonment if the organization is found guilty, or these individuals are found guilty of intentionally obstructing the enforcement of the regulation, or unlawfully obtaining or disclosing personal data. They may face this imprisonment and fines at the same time. So this is a serious matter, and we need to also take it serious as well. So what is now my role? What is our role as an organization? What's our role as the human resource management team of an organization, to secure and to protect the organization? I'll begin with the executive management, because HR is also a part of this unit, a part of this board. All right. So executive management must be receptive to cybersecurity measures. Their tone must be conducive to it. I remember we had a cybersecurity awareness section with an organization. It's an oil and gas company. And I found out that almost, the reception they gave to the section was second to none. It was massive, including their MD, the executive management. They are all there. At the end of the section, in fact, the MD was the first to give his remark concerning the section. Speaking of the new things that they've encountered, the new things that they are now aware of. All right. And this is to tell you how sacrosanct cybersecurity is for every organization. And, I was just wondering that what happened, what was different? And I found out that this organization has been hit twice or even more. I confirmed twice that they have been hacked twice, an oil and gas organization. That's to tell you a lot of money would have gone down the drain, which, of course, they wouldn't spend as much if they have to stay proactive when it comes to cybersecurity. And so the MD mandates everyone in our organization to attend, this awareness that we did for them at the time. So HR is part of this senior management that we're talking about. And as such, they are required to help drive cybersecurity and its culture across the organizations. All right. Staff members will be obligated to abide by security policies when they see their superior respect the same measures. All right, let me say that again. Staff members will be obligated to abide by security policies when they see their superiors respect the same measures. It is highlighted, that security awareness starts at the top with the creation, the support, the promotion of security conscious culture in an organization today. So executive management, they play a critical role in setting the day-to-day priorities for an organization's cybersecurity efforts. Around the organization, organizing and coordinating cybersecurity efforts, to build security into our day-to-day processes is one. After they have organized, they have to be able to communicate, the organization have to be able to communicate through the HR to the organization staff. All right, they need to be able to champion and advocate for the organization's cybersecurity efforts. So when staff see that our senior executives are in front of the cybersecurity thing, they will have no choice but to naturally become, compliant to those measures that have been put in place by the organization. So with the HR in picture, they'll be able to make clear policies and procedures to users' operation and communicate the information consistently for enforcement, All right. So there is something we call in my organization, for example, value focus work. And this information is communicated by the HR. So whatever you're doing, you have to abide by the value focus work. It's a policy in the organization guiding the way you operate, the way you interact with your device, the way you interact with the internet, and how your work focus is supposed to be. All right. So, and this applies to every organization that is security conscious, that wants to be security minded. All right. This is how we balance between productivity and security. So you will see a typical user that sees software patches or security updates on the system and tends to ignore. Why? Because there are serious works he's trying to say. There are processes, Excel, Word document, a lot of documents that he's trying to work on, and he doesn't want to go through the stress. He terms it as stress, downloading the Windows updates and installing it on his or her device. But the exposure or the risk that user is exposed to at the end of the day, if they are only able to understand that risk, they would not see it as a waste of time. They would not see it as they are not being productive, because it's important, for us to be able to balance between these two. Because when there is an incident, imagine an attack, which was caused by security vulnerability that would have been avoided by just downloading and installing a security update. So these are some of the concerns that we have. And then after organizing and communicating, the HR should be able to help prepare, in collaboration with the IT team, they plan to respond, they create plan to respond to an incident, build an incident response plan. It's very important. Nigerian data protection regulation also requires this, to prepare for an incident, in its eventuality, that at the end of the day, if a security breach happens, what do we do? How do we respond? How do we halt the operation? How do we stay protected? How do we continue business? So there is something we call business continuity and disaster recovery. So this is a plan that is embedded in the incident response plan. So how do we continue business? How do we recover from that attack? So the plan is made before an attack happens. You don't wait until an attack happens before you build this kind of plan. You have to create this plan before the attack happens. And that is what we're going to be ending. That is what we're going to be ending this discussion with. So I'll be talking about that in our last slide. So backup is crucial. That's the BCDR. Who is the security breach reported to, in the organization, and how is it reported? The timelines and the documentations around it, all of these things have to be created as a framework for that organization. All right. The security solutions that we put in place are also important. That's the first thing. We need to put those security solutions in place. And then, what security solutions? So typically as an organization today, what security solutions do you have in place around your network? What firewall? Do you have a firewall in place? Do you have VPN? How secure are those VPN? Are you running vulnerability scanning from time to time to see what vulnerabilities you're exposed to? All right. We used to run vulnerability assessment for organizations where we found out that their security is below average. Their cybersecurity exposure is above 50%. The risk that they are exposed to as an organization is above 50%, which is very, very, very disastrous, for that organization. All right. So what solutions do you have around firewalls, around VPN, network monitoring? Your endpoints in your organization, are they protected today? Do you carry out vulnerability assessment? Do you carry out penetration testing? How often do you sensitize your users? Do you have a cybersecurity awareness section for them? All right. There is email protection as well, because it's a target. I mentioned phishing attacks. It targets users' email. How do we protect them? Do we have intrusion detection and prevention in place? Intrusion detection and prevention, do we have those solutions in place? And so on and so on. We can go on and on when it comes to putting all of these cybersecurity measures in place. All right. Okay, so I'm almost done here. Okay, so we also talked about what we call patch management, which is the update management for enterprise. That also needs to be put in place, all right, by the organization. Training should also be included in users onboarding, in the employees onboarding. Training should be included. Cybersecurity training. I was at a customer organization some time ago, and I had to go through. I was just going to visit for 2 days, and for 2 hours, I was still at the reception. They had to sensitize me on how I need to go about the business. I need to comply, how their staffs, operate in the environment, how you need to connect to their network, how you need to be security conscious, how you need to be safety wise, when it comes to carrying out safety precautions, wanting to turn off the alarm, the exit doors, the emergency exit, and all of those things. It took me 2 good hours just for me to be with them for 2 days, as a consultant. So these are some of the things that we need to put in place as an organization. Cybersecurity awareness should be, a butter and bread for every organization that is security conscious, or it should be embedded in the employees' continuous development, to carry out these trainings and mandate all employees to attend. It is important. And then organizations need to carry out continuous simulation campaign, using third-party applications alongside awareness training, alongside the awareness training that we mentioned, simulation campaigns to test the knowledge of users, to put them to test. We send a simulation email to them, a similarly attacked email, we send it to them and ask them to, see how they respond to it, like update your password. We do like a typical attacker, but then this an in-house simulation just to test the knowledge of users. These are some of the tools that organizations can leverage, to increase their security posture and continue to protect themselves. Now, beyond this, around user awareness, what are some of the things that organizations should imbibe as culture? What are some of the things that should be part of this organization's policy by default? Baseline operations is very important for us. Users are expected to use complex password. All right, starting from the HR, because they are the custodian of digital assets of the organization, company's data, employees' personal data. And this, because of the implication of those data that is on their table, there is more that is expected from them. So users are expected to use complex password. Regular updates is essential. I can't overemphasize that. Regular updates is essential. As soon as you get updates, you need to install it, you need to download it, and make sure that your systems remain protected. All right. This also helps to, you know, augment and complement the organization's patch management or update management that has been put in place. All right. So there is need for us to also verify email sender. I do not have so much time on this call. I would have given us some signs, some hints as to what you should look out for in an email. You know, plus in addition to the email protection that has been put in place, it is important that you also secure your personal network. Now that we're in the era of remote workspace, it's important that every user, you know, to protect their network, because their network or their workspace is also an office of the organization. We have moved from the office space now to different offices of one, you know. So it's important that we are able to continue to safeguard, and we continue to take our own personal security when it comes to company data into our own personal security when it comes to company data into our own care. Let's take them personal. Let's normalize securing our own data and our own network, or the data that is on our care or in our care. All right. So there is need for us to also avoid sending sensitive information online. All right. There are many attacks on, especially on social media today, that is as a result of information sharing of users. If you are not a celebrity, you are not an online influencer, you shouldn't be sending information about yourself. Even influencers now, they can minimize the data that they send. You know, recently we heard in the news that all of the data that we have on LinkedIn today, because, you know, LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft, would be exposed, you know, would be released or used by the co-pilot. All right. So this is like a security breach, you know, because you don't know where your data is going from there. You don't know where your data is being processed and all of that. So it's important that we use multi-factor authenticator as well, in addition to our complex password. So today, users use on the average, maybe in total, 8 characters. Some users go as far as using 10 characters. All of these character of passwords have now become compromised. You know, they are exposed to a lot of risk. All right. So the limit to your password complexity should start from 14. All right. In fact, for some organizations, it should be 16 in the minimum. That is, your total password character should be 16, a combination of lowercase, uppercase, special characters, and symbols. All of these criteria must be met when you are setting up your password, because we have organizations that use a single sign-on. All right, and as soon as an attacker gets into an account, it means they are into all of that accounts, because it's the same password, it's the same account credentials that opens all of the accounts. So because of that, there is need for us to secure our password. You know, in addition to the MFA, we need to secure our password. There is need for us to use complex password moving forward, and then the use of MFA cannot be overemphasized as well. There are attacks that are avoided by just using your complex password, making your password complex, and using MFA. Now, on the dark web today, admin at 123, password at 123 is compromised. All right. So when attackers are coming to attack or hack an account, those are the set of passwords they will start with. So if you are a victim of this, if your current password is around admin or around password, go and change it right away. Make sure you change it immediately, because it has been exposed. All right. So, and there's need for us to also log over our devices properly when we are stepping away, because now we are working from home. All right. And we have people around us that are not part of our organizations. So they in a way, they are intruders, you know. So it's important that we secure and log off properly. Just use the Windows L key. Your system is locked and nobody can open it onto your back. Even if you're using the restroom for a minute or two, make sure you log off properly. And then lastly, on that note, stay informed, all right, about cybersecurity threats. For every attack, there is usually a vulnerability. For every attack that happens, there is a vulnerability that has been found by the cyber attacker. So either as a result of human error or system error, there is a vulnerability. So please stay informed with news, with cybersecurity trends, especially around webinars that speaks to the use of AI. All right, you remember the deepfake and technology attack that I mentioned is AI, basically, and neural networks. So attend webinars, trainings, or workshops that sensitize you on cybersecurity and AI. Such sections are for everyone. Such sections are for everyone. All right. So how do we now respond to incident management? I'll be done in a few minutes. Just give me a few more minutes and I'll be done. All right. So how do we respond? How do we respond? There are safe online habits that we have already talked about. But in addition to that, we need to assign roles and responsibilities. We need to put a team in place. As an HR, we need to put team in place that would help to enforce the use of needed tools. All right, as an organization, we need to enforce the use of needed tools. So if there is a security tool that's been put in place, if an endpoint protection has been put in place for organizations to use, endpoint A solution that is available for organizations to use, we should ensure that every user in that organization is using that endpoint. Because some users, they can ignore. But when you enforce it, you establish the procedure, they will still comply. We need to create communication plan as well. We need to train our employees, and we need to always test our incident response plan. It is important that we test our incident response plan. All right. And then in conclusion, with the fast changing landscape of cyber attack in our world today, cybersecurity can no longer be the responsibility of the IT department alone. The increasing sophistication of cyber threats and potential consequences of data breaches have made it imperative for all departments, including HR, as the primary custodian of employee data, to play a needed pivotal role in safeguarding company data and implementing cybersecurity framework across an organization. I know I've taken a lot of time, but it's such a great pleasure to be here. I'm so sorry for the time that I've taken. Thank you for listening, and I'm handing it over to the moderator. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was brilliant. Thank you, Abraham, for the wonderful session. We'll say thank you.
I guess Obiageri's network. I hope our line has not been hacked.
Hello.
All right. So yeah, welcome back, Obiageri.
Oh, so sorry. The network
all lines are fine. Hope it's not a hand hacker.
No, not at all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Abraham. Please, can we give a resounding virtual round of applause for Abraham for this wonderful session, please. Let us thank him. Let us clap our virtual hands. Please let it keep coming. Let it keep coming. Thank you very much, Abraham, for those insights on data protection strategies and best practices. I'm sure we have all gained valuable knowledge that will help us protect our data in our various businesses. Thank you very much once again, Abraham. It was very insightful. Thanks for sharing your knowledge with us. We say thank you very much. So at this time, it is Q&A section. So if you have any question or comments, please feel free to drop them in the chat box. If you want to share your thoughts too or your contribution, please drop them in the chat box, or if you want to speak, please raise your hand and you'll be asked to unmute and speak. Abraham is very much ready to answer to all our questions. He's ready here, he's waiting for our questions. Please keep them coming. Keep them coming, please. Drop them in the chat box. Drop them in the chat box. Abraham will answer to all our questions. So before we start taking the questions and answers, I would like to let us know that a membership link has been dropped in the chat box. So if you are new here and you want to join us, kindly click on the membership link and you will see all our activities in the link. So feel free to join, fill whatever form that is there, and you will be welcome in this wonderful association. So I would like to also say that this session has been approved by HRCI and it carries 3 business recertification units. If you have obtained any of HRCI certification, it could be SPHRI, GPHRI, PHRI, or APHRI, you can get a certificate for this session, which has a code for your recertification unit. So a link has also been dropped in the chat box for the certificate. So please feel free to register and get your certificate. It's just for a token. It is not much. Thank you very much for listening. So it is time for the question and answer. Let me go to the chat box and see the questions that I've dropped in. Please ask your questions. Ask your questions. Abraham is here to listen to us, to answer to all our questions. So I'd like to read contributions here. Idoni Amahia says, when employees are trained on data protection, you must have record of such training. I agree with you, Idoni. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. Oluwa Tony also says, there was a testing email sent to users. The subject was, please do not open this email, and still be recorded 25% open the mail. And the second time we got 10%. She said, we will test again next month, hopefully to reach target of 0% to be recorded. I hope so too. I hope by the time you do that next time, it will be 0% recorded. Thank you very much for your thoughts. Thank you very much. So please let the questions keep coming. Let the questions come. So there's a question here already. Can you clarify if some HTTPS sites can still pose security risk? So Abraham, please, the question is for you. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Could you?
So there's a question. Should I come again?
Please do that. Please do that.
He says, can you, Oluwafumilayo is asking, can you clarify if some HTTP sites can still pose security risk?
Yes, HTTP sites can still pose security risk. So it could be a disguise of a legitimate site. So for any site that is secured, you will find an S after the HTTP. All right, you will always find an S after the HTTP, except of course.
That's the question she asked. HTTPS, it has an S. So the question is that if with the S, it can still pose security risk.
If the S is there, there is no security risk. There is no security risk. As long as we have the HTTPS, there is no security risk.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there more questions? Please, if you have contribution, please raise your hand. We will ask you to unmute and you will speak. So there is another question here. Abraham and the Resilience Info Systems have graciously agreed to avail us the opportunity of a cybersecurity penetration and awareness session for our organization. Is this a comment, or I'm sure it's not a question? Says Abraham and Reliance Infosystem have graciously agreed to avail us the opportunity of a cybersecurity penetration and awareness session for our organization.
Thank you, Reliance. Thank you, Reliance Infosystems.
Thank
My
you.
organization should come first. What's the order? There is another question ahead.
Okay. So Kemi Ariyibi is asking, what steps or courses can someone with non-technical background take to get started with cybersecurity?
Okay, so it depends if you're taking the cybersecurity as maybe a measure to just secure, because as it is now, every user, every employee needs to be cyber aware. But if you are going into cybersecurity as a career, that will be on a different level. So, but just make sure that you are compliant with the measures that is put in place, by your organization. You can start with that. And then every cybersecurity awareness that comes your way, make sure you're in attendance, to get every of the details that you need, to improve on the knowledge you already have. But if you are going into cybersecurity as a career, that will be out of this call. So probably you can reach out after the call.
Okay, you say another person is asking, how do we enroll? How do we enroll to what?
Yeah, so the question is not completed.
Okay, are there more questions?
The question is for the awareness session for organization. So what's the mode?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we have one of the admins in the AEHRP team that could help you with that. So you can always reach out to the team and the admin will take it forward with you.
Okay, thank you very much. Please, we need more questions. Abraham is here to answer to our questions. If you want to speak, please raise your hand and we'll ask you to speak. You can give your contributions, your thoughts. You're allowed to speak if you want to speak. So Oluwatoyin is saying, thank you so much, Abraham, and the entire Reliance Infosystems. We are very grateful. Indeed, we are grateful. Thank you very much, Abraham. We say thank you to you. So are there more questions, more thoughts, more contributions? So thank you very much, Abraham. We are saying thank you again for your wonderful session. You did a very wonderful job. We say thank you, and thank you. So at this point, I'll ask Oluwatoyin if there are more announcements to make. If you have more announcements, please can we have them? Is she there?
I am here.
Okay, please, are there more announcements?
Announcements. For now, you've taken most of them.
Okay.
The learning session is on our YouTube. Everyone can still go back to remind ourselves about it. And the link for the certificate is also on the chat box. Let us get the certificate. It can be used locally and globally. We have a stance on it. Also, the weekly activities on the group is also ongoing. Let's all be very, very much engaged on it. The learning schedule is also available. So again, we'll see you again next week for another special learning session with the topic strategies for enhancing workplace communication and collaboration. Okay, so someone is asking, how do you get certificate for last week's session? We encourage that we request a certificate almost immediately so that we can do other things. All right, Olufunke, please reach out to me. We can get that sorted behind the scene. Okay, and let's also prepare ahead for all our learning schedules. We have the schedule already on our groups. Let us prepare and attend. Again, in AEHRP, continuous learning is our DNA. all that we have been taught, the beauty is for us to implement them, for us to put them into practice in supporting our organization. We are always rooting for you. Thank you. We have the global president on call. I hope he has something. Again, thank you so much, Abraham, for your passion, the way you were just dishing it out. You know, I could see how the passion and insights that you shared with us. We are grateful. We are grateful for your time and resources that you have shared with us. Over to you, moderator, and the global president is here to say a word. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for the wonderful announcement. Thank you very much. So I'd like to call on the global president for the vote of thanks. So